Okay, so the date is February 2nd, 1933. And a man named Rene Lancelin is all dressed up ready for a party. He's one of those, super rich guys, hangs out with other rich guys, goes to rich parties with his rich wife and his rich daughter. I mean, the daughter's not rich. I mean, she's rich because she's from a rich. Anyway, they're rich, is the point that I'm trying to make. He's getting ready for a party and he plans to meet his wife and his child there. So when he gets to the party, he's having a couple of drinks, he's schmoozing with the other rich people. He realizes that his wife and his daughter are nowhere to be found. And he's a little confused because they're usually on time for things. So he tries to get in touch with them and he can't. He can't find them. So he asks around, hey, has anyone seen my wife and my daughter? Have you seen them at the party? Did they show up yet? Everybody's like, no, I actually haven't seen them yet. So so he decides that he's gonna head home and just see what's taking them so long because it's really it's in poor manners for you to be late for a party of this stature, okay? So he heads home and he sees that none of the lights in the house are on. So he's like, okay, they must be on their way. Like we must have just crossed paths. I was on my way back here. They were on their way to the party. I'll go back to the party and I'll see them. So he heads back to the party. We spent a lot of time on the road here, but he heads back to the party and again, they're nowhere to be found. So now he's kind of freaking out because they're not at home and they're not here. Where could they be? So he heads home one more time. And instead of looking at the dark house and being like, there's no way they're here, he's like, maybe they went to bed early. Let me go let my wife know that tonight's the night of the party and she's supposed to be there. So he opens the door to the house and the sight that he sees. But before we get there, let's go back in time just a little bit, okay? Let's go back to 1904. In 1904, a woman named Clemence, we're gonna call her Clem, married a man named Gustave. This story takes place in France also, so me pronouncing things is gonna be interesting. Anyway, they married not for money and also not for love, but because back in 1901, they did you know, and they got pregnant. And you just simply cannot be a pregnant woman or a woman with a child without a husband. You really can't even just be a woman without a husband, to be perfectly honest. So they got married for that reason. And then over the next couple of years, they gave birth to a total of 3 children, all girls. Clem hated being a mother, however. Like she just really, it was not her thing. She never wanted to be a mother. It just kind of happened to her. And she made it clear that she hated being a mother. Everybody knew. Also, it was kind of unclear from the reports that I was reading, but some report that she was having like a string of affairs. So it's possible that none of these children were her husbands, which makes the next part a little bit better, but not really all that much better. Anyway, she finds out that her husband has been molesting some of the girls. And so she does what any mom would do, okay? She packs up the kids, she puts them in the car, and she says, we're leaving you, you idiot. You're disgusting, and we want no parts of you. No, just kidding. She didn't do that. Actually, what she did do was she just shipped all of the children off and then also ran away herself. It's not funny, but it's kind of like she just got rid of everybody. She said, I didn't like being a mother in the first place, and now I don't have to. Anyway, this is where our 2 main characters enter. Okay, Clem's middle and youngest children were sent to a very strict nunnery to learn how to be proper women. Okay, I'm talking cooking, I'm talking cleaning, I'm talking crossing your legs at the ankles and folding your hands in your lap when you sit down. However, this nunnery is known for, is it called a nunnery or did I just make that word up? It's known for how strict it is and how taxing it is. It's basically like a work camp for girls. And I'm making a point of telling you this because the oldest child, Christine, ends up thriving here. Okay. Yeah, it's hard work, but she was away from the man who was abusing her. She was away from the mother who didn't love her. She's actually finding purpose in her life. However, Clem, the mother, could not stand that. Okay. You guys are supposed to be here for punishment, for being molested, I guess. But she wasn't having it. Okay. She said, you're not supposed to be having fun. You're supposed to be learning hard lessons. You're supposed to be becoming better women because you weren't good women at home. I don't know. So she pulled the girls from the nunnery and sent them to work for a wealthy family in exchange for a fee. I guess at this point in France, you could do basically whatever you wanted to do with your children. Like you could send them literally wherever. It's not funny, but it's like she sent the two older ones to go and make her money. And then she sent the youngest one to go and live with whoever else. So she's not taking care of any children, but also she's making all of the money off of them. I was going to say you have to stand, but like, no, you don't. You don't. So the girls worked every day, sun up to sundown. They only had Sundays off. And the only reason that they had Sundays off was because they had to go to church. Church was mandatory. So it really wasn't even a day off. So the two girls, Christine and Leia, those are the two sisters' names. They really only had each other. The only people that they really had to talk to were each other. And so their relationship grew. They became best friends, you know, the best of sisters, and also lovers. The relationship grew into a space that sisters should not be. But again, they were only interacting with the two of them. And I guess you end up having needs. I don't want to talk about it too much. Just know that that's where their relationship was, okay? So a few years pass and the two sisters end up getting separated. They stop working for that same family. Christine goes to work for a new family and she's thriving there too, okay? She's good at what she does. She's good at cooking, she's good at cleaning, she's good at staying out of the way. So in 1926, she lands a job working for a wealthy retired lawyer by the name of Renee Lancelin, bringing the story back to the beginning. And even though she's not allowed to speak to Mr. Lancelin, literally she worked for him for like 13 years or something like that. And she was never allowed to even look him in the face or say a word to him. Mrs. Lancelin and their daughter Genevieve, they like respected Christine's work, you know, like she was, like I said, she was good at what she did. So when they were looking to add another, I was about to say slave, that's not the right word. It kind of is the right word. Housekeeper to the family, Christine begged them to bring on her sister Leah, and they obliged. So now Christina and Leah are back together. I was going to say the dynamic duo, but knowing the type of sisters they were, I'm not going to say that because that's nasty. So Miss Sis Lancelin is not a peach, okay? She's not a good person. She's actually a terrible fucking person, okay? I'm talking like she does white glove tests after the girls finish cleaning because she wants to make sure that like you didn't leave any dust behind, and don't let her find any. One time, okay, she did a white glove test like on the mantle behind some stuff, so like not even a place that you can see, but she swipes her finger across the mantle and it comes up dirty. She's so mad that she like throws Leah's head into the wall. Okay, the girls frequently were covered in bruises. One time she pinched one of them so hard that they bled. They were sick of it, okay? And Leah made it known that if anything like this ever happened again, she was gonna fight back, okay? She was going to fight back in self-defense. She was not gonna take this shit anymore. But 7 years go by and everything is pretty much okay, okay? The two sisters work for the family. They didn't have too many more issues. Everything was cool. That is until February 2nd, 1933, the night of the party. So Mr. Lancelin, he's out, he's doing his thing, he's going straight to the party from work. Mr. and Mrs. Lancelin have errands to run. They're going to get their dress or whatever else you need for a party when you're rich, I don't know. And the girls were given the task of getting the family iron fixed. The iron, like the thing that you press clothes with. So they go out to get it fixed, and the iron fixer fixes it. At least he says he does. So they come home and they plan to do the rest of their chores. They plug the iron in, completely blows the fuse, cuts all the lights in the entire house out, and they don't know what to do. So they look at each other and they're just like, we'll just get done the things that we can get done, and then we will figure everything else out along the way. So they go and they do their other chores, you know, whistling while they work, I guess. Unexpectedly, and I'm saying unexpectedly because we're not expecting them home at this point, but it is their home, so they can come home whenever they want to. Mrs. Lancelin and Genevieve Lancelin show up at the door. And they're kind of pissed off that there are no lights, But also, they're really pissed off because their clothes haven't been ironed, they are not folded, their sheets haven't been pressed out because there's no electricity. And Mrs. Lancelin is pissed. She starts yelling at Christine, literally throwing stuff, pushing all of the books off of the bookshelf, throwing things at Christine and Leah. And Christine is done, okay? She says, "You're not gonna treat me like this anymore." And she starts to fight back, okay? She starts just fucking swinging. It's not funny. Fucking swinging on Mrs. Lancelin to the point that she picks up a pewter jug. You know what a pewter jug is? Like a really heavy water jug full of, well, I don't know what it's full of, but it's made of like a really heavy metal. And she swings it at Mrs. Lancelin, knocking her on her back. This is at the point where Genevieve is like, "Oh nah, you're not finna be in here fucking my mom up and I'm just watching." So she jumps into the fight. And when that happens, Leah's like, "No, y'all not finna jump my sister." So she jumps into the fight. And now it's just a full-on girl brawl, okay, in the foyer of this house. And Christine is, she's beating the shit out of Mrs. Lancelin with this pewter jug. So it also gets to the point where Christina's like, "I'm so fucking done with this shit that not only are you never going to be able to yell at me again, you're never going to be able to even look at me again." And she just pops, pops both of their eyes out. She just like scoops their eyes out of their skulls, both of these women. Okay, so now Mrs. Lancelin and Genevieve Lancelin have no eyes. Did you know that it was that easy to just grab somebody's eye? Oh my God. Now I'm thinking about it. To grab somebody's eye out of their socket. Anyway, she did that for all four eyes. Neither of these women have eyes anymore. So they continue beating them senseless until the point where both of these women are, they're dead, just in the foyer of the house. And that is what Renee Lancelin, Mr. Lancelin, walks in on when he comes back home trying to figure out why his wife and his daughter are not at this fancy party. So he calls the police, obviously, because what the fuck? And the police show up, they do their initial investigation. I think what I read was they found Mrs. Lancelin's eyes wrapped in her scarf that was like around her neck. They were just like tucked in her scarf. And then there was another eyeball like on the stairs. So that's just to give you a picture of how gruesome this scene was. So the police go upstairs looking for the girls. They head into the girls' room, and the two girls, remember how I said that their relationship was just a little bit inappropriate, were found cuddling in the bed together. Some reports say that they were just cuddling, others say that they were doing less wholesome things. All of the reports agree that they were naked, however. And also next to the bed was the pewter jug covered in blood, and also the murder weapon, which ended up being a knife, also covered in blood, just next to them on the nightside table. Like they didn't give a fuck about whether or not they got caught. So both of them are arrested, brought up on charges. Leah decides that she's not going to speak. She's not going to say anything at her trial. She has nothing to say. They're going to do what they're going to do. Christine, however, claims that the entire thing was in self-defense. Okay, the story sounded very different coming from her than it did from me just now. Also, self-defense is one thing, but like popping their eyes out. Anyway, Leah ends up getting life in prison. She spent the rest of her life in a French prison. And Christine, who claimed self defense, I don't know how the trial went, but apparently not well, because she was sentenced to death by guillotine, which is, I want to say that that's so cool, but it's not, okay? I don't think that the death penalty is cool at all, but like guillotine. Anyway, that's the story of the Papin sisters, Christine and Leah Papin, the nuns, sisters, lovers, murderers.